Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Welcome to my review for Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger episode 3, I almost said 4. This was the debut of Magine, and I thought it was a very charming episode. I was worried I was going to be annoyed by it, because it definitely continued to lean a little more towards silly stuff, and there was some stuff that was kind of annoying, but for the most part I found it to be a charming episode. So you have the Rangers are going to be going out and looking for a new recruit, but they're basically stopped in their tracks by the fact that the world has been turned to ice by this week's monster, which is the Ice World monster. And while that's happening, they're kind of slipping and sliding around because of the nature of the ice, and that causes them to slide right into Magine, who obviously, like I said, debuts in this episode, and she's walking around, and after they run into her, her and Juran recognize each other, because I guess they were neighbors from the before times, back when she was little, which creates kind of an interesting connection. And when they're catching up with her, they find out that she likes to read fortunes, and she thinks that's her ability. So they decide to use her fortune-telling abilities to find the guy, and it kind of leads them in this adventure through the episode around town. And they end up at a sauna, they're sledding all around, which is kind of funny. They end up at a haunted house, which I think was the funniest part for me. But it eventually leads them to nowhere, and Gown's kind of the only one having none of it. I find it kind of funny. I don't know if this is going to be a tradition or if it's just coincidental, but like each subsequent Kikanoi that's introduced kind of dislikes the other one to a degree. Like last week when Gown showed up, Juran didn't really like him, and then this week, Gown's kind of the only one that's not that into what Majine's selling. I thought that was kind of funny. And she's basically feeling down on herself for always being wrong, and she's like, my fortunes are never right. And then there's this kind of, it was a really funny mixed moment for me because Kaito says, well, do fortunes have to be right? I'm like, well, that's a classic Sentai leader thing to say. But then it was kind of a sweet moment where he said, even if they're not right, they kind of push you in a direction that might lead to something good. And then she has this flashback of when she lived next to Juran of doing that sort of he loves me not game. Whether she's going to go play with the neighborhood kids in Juran. I don't know why Juran is playing with the neighborhood kids, but that's a discussion for another time. It was just kind of a sweet little flashback scene that kind of leans to her character and also a little bit about her and Juran's past. And I thought it was a nice moment, and that ultimately leads to her deciding to join them, and when she joins them, she sleds in, which is funny. And her thing is she accidentally fires off the blaster, like, by herself and not at a henchman, because there's no henchman at the time, I don't think. But regardless, even if there was, she didn't fire at him, which I thought was funny. I actually kind of liked that it was unexpected and still kind of kept that little bit tradition. I'm hoping that Rune also has his own unique one when he debuts next week. But they transform, we get her debut, but then because the whole world's like frozen over now, and they're fighting on the ice, which was previously not like ice on the street, but ice that was water. And they're slipping and sliding all around. And the first thing they do is use the Tokyuger one. That was like not Navi's suggestion, and I'm like, okay, how's that gonna help? But I guess what they ended up doing is they lined up like in the, like a train or a conga line and cause them to go through the enemies in a sort of straight line to keep them in line, I guess. And there was kind of a nice touch. I don't remember which one of them said it, but one of them said that, you know, stay behind the white line, which is what the changer says before they transform into Tokyuger. But then Magine uses her magic to give them footholds so they can hold their ground, and they ultimately defeat the monster. And then it's time for the monster to grow big, and something I thought was funny is Juran calls attention to it. He's like, wait, if this is anything like last week, and then the monster grows up, he's like, yep, that's what happened, it grew big. And so they do Juran Gown, and they're fighting, and then Magine joins the fight in her dragon form, which is probably my favorite of the animal forms. I mean, Brune's is fine, we'll see it next week, but it's basically just a blue version of the Bokenger one, just like him. But hers, like, it looks the most normal and the most cool, and when you have the little transforming toy of the figure, it's the one that's got the coolest transformation. Like, it feels like the one that worked out the best. Whereas Tyrannosaurus and Lion feel like they just barely made him look like that while also having the functionality of the robot forms. But that was pretty cool, and then we debuted her form with Juran Magine, which I was kind of surprised by. Not necessarily once the episode started, but just because based on when we first got information on the series, I assumed that like red and yellow and pink and blue would debut first and then they'd start mishmashing. But since they started debuting everyone one at a time, which was unexpected, they debuted this first. They didn't do a finisher with it though. They went back to Juran Gown for the finisher. But still, it was pretty cool. The CGI is still pretty poor. I've never wanted to complain about CGI, but it's still, it stands out for sure, but I find the fights to be mostly entertaining. And then the end of the episode, you know, has them all working together at the cafe, and we get our last little Rune tease as he sees that yet another world has been liberated, which is the freezing world from the Monster of the Week, and he goes off to tell somebody. It was really funny because I was just thinking during the mecha fight, I'm like, oh, we didn't see Rune this episode, and then a few minutes later he shoe up. Wow, Dawson. I thought this was an entertaining episode. I liked it. I like Magine so far. She's not my favorite, but I thought she had an endearing entrance. I like that she has a past with Juran. It kind of makes it different than just finding a random new recruit. Like I said, I actually thought the scene, like with her flashback and relating it to her fortunes, sort of leading them places, makes it more touching. I don't know whether she always had abilities, and they were just spotty, or whether now she has abilities because she's a ranger, but they do have a teaser to Vroon 2 where she sees a vision of his glasses, which is kind of a nice lead into the next one there. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, whether, like I said, she's always had them or she just has them now, but I like the way that they use that. But I thought there was some touching stuff there. Like I said, it could lean a little more towards the annoying, but I found the sort of like journey through town story to be pretty funny, like them sledding around and slipping around and being scared by the haunted house when they were looking for the monster. I thought it was pretty entertaining and pretty funny. And you know, like I said, the CGI is a little bit spotty, but I think most of the action's been kind of fun and unique. I feel like I'm repeating myself because I feel like I'm flashing back to all my early Sentai reviews where they'll do something unique with their fights in the early days and then they drop it. So I'm hoping they don't drop it, but something I do like so far, based on the 2 non-pilot episodes, is like with the Mushroom World and the Ice World, they gave it unique settings, and sometimes they made use of that in the battle, especially this week with like the monster of the ice falling on him or the slipping and sliding. And I think that's fun, and I hope that continues. And I also think it aesthetically just makes the episodes feel unique, which I really like. So yeah, I found this to be entertaining this week. I found this to be entertaining this week. I would give this episode a 4. I quite liked it. And again, I'm just going to repeat myself until we're done with it, but I really do like that we're doing a slow burn and introducing everyone one at a time. It's a welcome change period and unexpected for a series like this. But what did you guys think of this episode of Majine's debut and the new mecha formation and the series so far overall? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can just my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.